Night Watch Institute, Node3, dispatch 2020-0124.01. I'm sincerely hoping this time that I actually pressed the correct button, because I just lost about half an hour's worth of commentary. The bright side is, you don't have to listen to half an hour's worth of commentary now. Regardless, I would like to say I just got through listening to the second episode of Liminal Phrames. That's Liminal Phrames. And I was very impressed. I was constantly tempted to pause and begin typing a running commentary. But every time I did, I found that if I just waited a few more moments, they would say nearly the same question that I was about to stop and pitch to them. These two gentlemen, Academian and Calling All Beings, I think. I certainly hope I remembered that. But these two gentlemen, both from the Kentucky Blue Ridge Mountains, have done more to ease my faith and trust in the scientific community of UFO Twitter, UAP Twitter, and Twitter in general. They are much more on the scientific and philosophical side than the journalistic side. So not so much a George Knapp or a Ryan Sprague, but rather perhaps a much more calm and open-minded Star Talk, or a much less sound-affected or cited with resources Radio Lab. It was a discussion of scientific ideas and principles. And I found that I had no fault with any part of the show. I was very delighted to see their research efforts going in very much a direction that I myself have found probable. My only response would be perhaps next time to touch upon the idea of a non-carbon based life, and life formed perhaps not of hydrocarbons, but instead of perhaps any area where mass may be interacted with energy, and finds a way to convert that into a more complex state, including the replication of itself. At that point, you have, at minimum, proto-life. And proto-life, should it be given opportunity and resources and sufficient time to adapt and evolve, should become full-fledged life, regardless of whether it is carbon-based, water-based, for all we know, a flame that becomes a roaring fire that achieves sufficient size could be an emergent intelligence. We have no way of knowing at the moment, only because we lack the scientific instrumentation, the wherewithal, and the funding to investigate such things. Perhaps you're adamantly against that, and you are insistent that it must involve water in some way. Then I present to you the majestic beauty that is the Texas cloudscape, where we all grow up with the mantra that if you do not like the weather, you merely need to wait for 5 minutes and it will change. I'm sure there are many places around the world that have a mantra similar. But when you've lived in Texas your whole life, a few years here and there accepted, but even traveling and wandering around, if you're from here, you quickly learn there is no place in the world that has skyscapes quite like this. And stranger beyond that. Who's to say that a large enough cloud formation where water is constantly thrown and shifted in triple points, quadruple points, perhaps even quintuple points and more, where water achieves multiple states at just the right pressure and temperature. We used to think the triple state was the only thing that could be achieved, and having water achieve this state at, I believe, 2 different known degrees. I can't quote them off the top of my head. I think one of them involves the number 6. But no matter. Who's to say there isn't a quadruple point where the 4th state of matter comes out, plasma? Well, we certainly observe that in the sky with lightning happening naturally all the time. At least we assume it's naturally. Truth be told, we just don't know that much about lightning or clouds or what it's like to be inside of a cloud. I mean this with all due respect. But for anyone who hasn't grown up or tried to adapt a mentality and a culture where you don't take an active investment in the stewardship of the land around you, these things may never occur to you. You know what I see when I look at the sky? I see continents. I see continental drift. I see Pangea. I see La Rocha. I see Gondwanaland. I see the eye of God. I see the eye of our Creator and our Destroyer. The sun is both of those things. At one point, the moon probably was too. if your individual cells within you attained consciousness, your liver cell, for instance, or a neuron within the brain, or perhaps not even an entire neuron, perhaps somewhere in the gaps between neurons and axons and glias and all the other wonderful things that make up the human nervous system. And you go in small enough on a small enough scale, who's to say what you would or would not eventually find? If anyone ever wanted just the briefest taste of what worlds exist within worlds, within worlds, within worlds, you need look no further than the bark of a tree. You'll find all sorts of things you never noticed before. Perhaps you'll find eyes that stare back at you. Perhaps you'll look within. Perhaps you'll get up close enough to see all the life forms, the little forests, creatures, and the worlds within. Is it any wonder that so many people thought that there was a world tree? Imagine if one of these green flecks here were a single bit of arable land for the human race and the entire planet. Look how much more of the tree there is. Look how much further you could travel before you ever even reached the edge of the tree or the innermost depths of its roots, or even the wood wide web that ties it all together locally underneath a mother tree. That is just one tiny speck within a speck within a speck within a speck. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. This is Node3, signing off.